This is a Countdown Bulletin podcast. I'm Keith Olbermann. In an insane news conference in the Oval Office, even for him, a news conference nominally intended to announce raising the price of business waivers, the extortion Trump takes for foreign employees coming into this country to work for American manufacturers, Trump has declared that he believes criticism of himself is illegal. I'll repeat that. Criticism of Trump declared illegal by Trump. Whether he will remember this tomorrow or not is always an open question, but given the Kimmel events of the past week, it remains a serious question. Whether he will do anything about this is the true question.
And a follow-up on Charlie Kirk, there's been a lot of talk about free speech this week. Do you see a difference between cancel culture and consequence culture?
Well, I mean, your question's a little trick question. I'm a very strong person for free speech. At the same time, when you have networks where I won an election, like in counties, I guess it's 2,600 to 525. That's called a landslide times two. When you have that level of popularity or voter support, as I did in the last election, and yet 97 and 94%, different numbers. You see different numbers with different stats, but 97, 94, 95, 96% of the people are against me in the sense of the newscasts are against me. The stories are they said 97% bad. So they gave me 97. They'll take a great story and they'll make it bad. See, I think that's really illegal, personally.
Donald John Trump cannot remain president after that. He cannot. You cannot declare that criticism of a president, any president, is illegal. That has not held true during the Civil War. It has not held true during the First or Second World War or any other American conflict when there were real dangers in the land. It is not true and cannot be true, and any president who believes it is true that criticism of him is illegal cannot remain president after that. And note, please, the question was once again about the fallen false idol of the far right, Charlie Kirk. And Trump, without a moment's hesitation, changed the subject to him, as he did when he was asked on a human-to-human level how he was doing in the wake of Kirk's death, and kind of shrugged it off and instead started talking about the outhouse or ballroom or whatever that is he is building outside of the White House. Again. And as he said this, Trump was again covering his wounded, damaged, sick, discolored right hand with his left hand. But back to the point at hand. Given what FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr did this week to ABC and Disney, the threats he made towards ABC and Disney as part of a deal to allow the owners of the Sinclair stations to buy more stations, more than they are currently legally allowed to buy, he pressured Sinclair to pressure ABC, which of course is trying to get FCC approval and other operatives' approval of a purchase deal by which the National Football League will buy part of ESPN. It's all part of one giant attempt to make more money by the Sinclair stations and by ABC and Disney. What Carr said this week, quote, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to take action on Kimmel, or there is going to be additional work for the FCC ahead." That's what Carr said, and within hours, ABC had taken Kimmel's show off the air, even though 100% across the board, Kimmel's remarks about the late Charlie Kirk have been mischaracterized. He said simply two truths. One, which was that since the death of Kirk, the far right has been doing everything it could to prove he was not far right, not MAGA. That is a fact. No member of those groups would deny that that is a fact. The other thing he said was the far right has been trying to score political points off Charlie Kirk's death since he fell. 100% true in both occasions. This has been twisted largely by people who did not see what was said by Kimmel or read it. Commentators of all stripes, everybody from the hard right people at Fox News to Stephen A. Smith making a fool of himself on this topic. And they mischaracterized it into some sort of insult against Kirk. In fact, Jimmy Kimmel started his segment about Charlie Kirk by expressing sorrow and his remorse about the subject and his condolences to the family. It was a dignified presentation. Not Brendan Carr making a dignified presentation, and to such a degree, this is how serious an issue this is. A president claiming that you cannot criticize him, that is illegal, and the force of the government being used to blackmail ABC television into sidelining a show without any kind of review process. It's so bad that the criticism coming Friday afternoon of Brendan Carr and the FCC and the Trump administration's extraordinary heavy hand in the Kimmel-Kirk story comes from the least likely place imaginable, from a podcast hosted by Senator Ted Cruz. You heard me right. Ted Cruz attacked Carr and the manhandling of ABC, Disney, and Kimmel on his podcast Friday afternoon.
So the Federal Communication Commission is in charge of granting broadcast licenses. So ABC, NBC, CBS, they have licenses from the FCC. It is true that under statute, they're required to be in the public interest.
Yep.
What he is saying is Jimmy Kimmel was lying. That's true. He was lying. And his lying to the American people is not in the public interest. And so he threatens explicitly, we're going to cancel ABC's license. We're going to take him off the air so ABC cannot broadcast anymore. And I got to say, he threatens it. He says, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way.
Yeah.
And I got to say, that's right out of Goodfellas. That's right out of a mafioso coming into a bar going, nice bar you have here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. I think it is unbelievably dangerous for government to put itself in the position of saying, we're going to decide what speech we like and what we don't, and we're going to threaten to take you off air if we don't like what you're saying. And it might feel good right now to threaten Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
But when it is used to silence every conservative in America, we will regret it. And so, again, I like Brendan Carr, but we should not be in this business. We should denounce it. It's fine to say what Jimmy Kimmel said was deplorable, it was disgraceful, and he should be off air, but we shouldn't be threatening government power to force him off air. That's a real mistake.
Senator Ted Cruz. We can make all the jokes we want about him. He is 90% correct. There are two errors in there. It's not actually Goodfellas. That line about it would be a shame if something happened to it is actually a Monty Python sketch from 1969. Also, Kimmel did not lie about Charlie Kirk. His comments were about what those who have survived Charlie Kirk have tried to do and tried to exploit in the wake of the death of Charlie Kirk. Otherwise, Ted Cruz is as right as he ever has been in his life. And I will have to go and lie down after saying that. There has been some blowback finally from some quarters in media, which largely has been silent and terrified. The hosts of The View said nothing about this, no doubt warned that if they did, they would be fired. That's the way things stand at ABC and Disney now under Bob Iger, who folded like a cheap card table. But his predecessor, as chairman of Disney, one of his predecessors, Michael Eisner, spoke out in a dignified rage on social media Friday afternoon, quoting Eisner, "Where has all the leadership gone? If not for university presidents, law firm managing partners, and corporate chief executives standing up against bullies, who then will step up for the First Amendment?" As an aside, he's talking to you, Bob Iger. Resuming Eisner, the suspending indefinitely of Jimmy Kimmel immediately after the chairman of the FCC's aggressive yet hollow threatening of the Disney company is yet another example of out-of-control intimidation. Again, as an aside, Eisner, who has been in this position before, the one Iger is in now, recognized that these were paper threats. There was nothing that could be done that would not involve years or perhaps decades of litigation by the FCC against ABC's licenses. The problem, of course, is that the ABC and reaction also from Sinclair constitute essentially bribes by ABC and Sinclair of the FCC to get its approval in the business deals previously mentioned. But to resume Eisner's righteous indignation, maybe the Constitution should have said, he writes, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press except in one's political or financial self-interest. By the way, for the record, he closes, this ex-CEO finds Jimmy Kimmel very talented and funny. There is one other speaker who is worth listening to on this, even though his comments were not made recently. They are a little out of date. They are from 107.5 years ago. To announce that there must be no criticism of the president, or that we are to stand by the president, right or wrong, is not only unpatriotic and servile, but is morally treasonable to the American public. Nothing but the truth should be spoken about him or anyone else. But it is even more important to tell the truth, pleasant or unpleasant, about him than about anyone else. Those words were spoken in Kansas City, Missouri on the 7th of May, 1918, by former President Theodore Roosevelt about the then President Woodrow Wilson in the middle of what was then the only World War. If it was legal to criticize the president then, it is legal to criticize the president now. And if Trump truly believes that criticism of him as president is somehow illegal, someone in his crime family administration will attempt to please him by acting upon this. We've already heard about his attempt to designate Antifa, which is an organization that does not actually exist in any form. It does not have a meeting clubhouse. There is no way to designate it a terrorist group, yet he is going to try to do that. And then, of course, his next move would be to declare that you or me or Ted Cruz or Michael Eisner or Jimmy Kimmel is a member of Antifa. That's all he has to do at this point, as long as there are people beneath him in that administration willing to enact it, and that there are people on the outside, like Bob Iger, the chairman of Disney, or the president of Columbia University, or any of the other folding chairs who have not stood up and have not defended American democracy or the American public or America. The criticism of the president is legal. Criticism of podcasters is legal. Criticism of you is legal. Criticism of me is legal. If Donald Trump cannot take it, he should resign and save the rest of us the trouble, because Donald Trump can no longer be president of the United States. This has been a Countdown Bulletin podcast. I'm Keith Olbermann.